Hello and welcome to this week's show. This week, all about guano. What on earth is guano? Well, I've got a history for you about something that might seem rather dull and mundane. However, in actual fact, has a very lively and fascinating history, and that is guano, which is bird droppings, believe it or not. Plus, of course, this week's piece of art is a picture I did of myself last year, the end of last year. Anyway, I hope you're having a fantastic 2010. What on earth am I rambling on about bird droppings for? Well, guano was, of course, used, as it still is today, not as much today as it was, but it was used as fertilizer. And indeed, there was a huge concentration of guano, and particularly in Western South America, and it became so important that it initiated a war between three South American countries. It was the beginning, it initiated the beginning of American imperialism, if you like, and because of it, the population of one particular South Pacific country became almost decimated. So, like I said, it was particularly prevalent in Western South America. By the 19th century, guano was hundreds of meters deep on some of the islands in that particular area of the Pacific and the Caribbean. It had been mined by local Indians since around 500 AD. The Spanish came across it, of course, in their travels. However, they were not particularly interested in it. They were more interested in gold and silver. In 1804, Alexander Humboldt, who the Humboldt current is named after, came across it on a tour of Peru. He took a few samples back to France. However, there was not a great deal of interest in Europe even after that. A few barrels did make it back to England and North America. However, there wasn't much trade until two Peruvian businessmen took an entire boatload to Britain, and then it became extremely popular. Peru and Britain signed an exclusive contract, and I think Peru ended up with almost their entire GDP, or 80% or so, was derived from guano. In fact, they ended up owing a lot of money because they got themselves so in debt when they got carried away with the guano boom. So the problem was, when American farmers cottoned on to how good it was, that Peru and Britain had an exclusive contract. So the American farmers had to get it via the UK, which made it much more expensive, of course. And so, due to this frustration, President Buchanan issued a decree whereby any US citizen that came across guano in their travels could claim the land where it was for the US. So that was really the beginning of US imperialism, and that's how they ended up having so many of these very small islands throughout the Caribbean and Pacific and so on. By 1860, the most mined guano islands on Earth were the Chinchas Islands, which belong to Peru. The mining of this guano, however, was extremely dangerous to one's health, and so the local Peruvians didn't want to do it. So what they did was they sent some ships over to China. I think they were American and British captains or something, and they told them that they were taking them to the Californian gold fields, which was absolute nonsense. They took them to these Chinchas Islands and basically worked them, whipped them, and beat them pretty much to death. I think they lived off 4 unripe bananas a day, and yeah, they weren't too happy, obviously. So 50 years after the Guano Islands Act was enacted, 94 islands have been claimed by the United States to become US territory. In 1879, Chile, Peru and Bolivia, because of guano, went to war. The reason being that there was guano in the Atacama Desert. Bolivia claimed the land and Peru claimed the ownership. Peru backed Bolivia, which was not a good idea because Chile had the strongest navy by a long shot, and they blockaded the coast and easily won the war, claiming invaluable nitrate deposits for Peru. So Peru then occupied, Chile then occupied Peru for some time. Many of the tiny islands claimed by the US due to the search for guano have historical importance. For example, we've got Johnson Atoll, which was used, I think it's still probably used by the US Navy, I'm not sure. Great Swan Island was used, of course, by the CIA in the Caribbean as it broadcast radio-free Cuba with anti-Castro messages. And of course Howe Island, which was the destination for Amelia Earhart in her fatal trip in 1937. So there you go, fairly interesting and significant history there of something that you might think is rather mundane and unimportant. So there you go. None of these islands, of course, would have become United States territories had it not been for the bird droppings, and the Bolivian Navy would not be confined to circling Lake Titicaca had it not been for guano and the war they had there in South America. Well, thanks for watching this week's show. I'm off on holiday back to Thailand again today, actually. I hope you enjoyed this piece of art, and I'm hoping that you're having a fantastic year. Keep in touch, send all your comments and ratings, and subscribe, and I'll do another video when I get back. Thanks a lot, and have a fantastic week. Cheers. Bye.